With the new Su-30 in the game, people want to grind it, obviously, so that also means that people are looking for a premium to buy in the USSR tech tree. So today we'll be looking at the mig23ML and its stats for you to decide if it's worth buying in 2025. I'll share my overall opinion at the end of the video, but first up we have the speed, where the MiG-23 has a maximum speed of 2,358 km per hour at 13,000 meters. Or for people using Freedom units, it's 1,465 miles per hour. On the deck, it can easily reach over Mach 1.1. Additionally, it has a really good rate of climb and a really good acceleration, which is only really beat out by 1 or 2 aircrafts in this BR bracket. So for speed, I'll rate it a solid 9 out of 10. Now, agility is the ability to roll, turn and dogfight, which it is possible to do in this vehicle as long as your wings are swept. I mean, this BR is kind of weird because there are a bunch of light vehicles and also a bunch of heavy vehicles, so you'll win about 50% of the dogfights you take depending on the vehicles. So for agility, I'll rate it a nice 5 out of 10. Now for offensive armament, you can carry a maximum of 6 missiles, your best of course being the R-24s and the R-60s. The R-24s are probably the best radar missile in this BR bracket, even though it is a Fox 1 and you will need to maintain lock when firing. However, the R-60s are kind of lacking compared to the Magics and the AIM-9Ls. As for your cannon, it is a 23mm center aligned Gish with 200 rounds. Personally, I don't really like the Gish as it's slow and it doesn't really have a lot of ammo, but overall I'll give it a 7 out of 10 for the weaponry. Moving over to defense, you can have a maximum of 72 large caliber countermeasures, which is absolutely fantastic, and they can be split. However, on the downside, your RWR is severely lacking because it can only track 3 bands. It doesn't have launch detection and it only has tracking protection. Additionally, it is only directional, although that's kind of average for this BR bracket, so I'd rate it a 7 out of 10 for defense. Now for CAS, your best options are probably the S-24B rockets and the KH-23M missiles, which are M-class, so you do have to manually guide them. Other than that, your ammunitions are pretty lackluster for ground pounding capabilities, so this vehicle is quite disappointing when it comes to CAS, so I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10 for its CAS ability. For its features, it does have flares and chaff, it has a radar and the obstacle detection, and the RWR and ballistic computers, but I do think that the best feature is that if your missile loses radar lock, it will somewhat guide it towards the radar target even though you're not hard locked onto them. On the downside, however, though and previously mentioned, its RWR is kinda poopy. Additionally, its radar is really finicky and sometimes it doesn't even track people properly. So for features, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Now for durability, I've literally flown this thing without wings in Air RB, so it's an open and closed case. It gets 10 out of 10 for durability. It's also Russian, so, you know. As for how difficult the plane is to fly, it really isn't that hard. The majority of the time you'll just be booming and zooming with all of your 6 missiles. The hardest part of the vehicle is definitely just using the guns. The Gish is just really bad and it's slow and bad. But you'll also struggle with the up tiers a bunch, so you'll be outclassed. So with 10 being the easiest, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Moving over to the fun value, personally I find flying this plane to be quite awkward at times and finicky, and when it was released, the roll rate was significantly higher than it is now. The radar is a little annoying as it keeps unlocking things, and up tiers can definitely be irritating to play, so I'd rate it, with 10 being the easiest and most fun to play, I'd rank it a solid 6 out of 10. Because I did have some fun with a better pencil fighter with wings in. Finally, for its value, the aircraft is a perfect vehicle to get when grinding out the USSR tech tree and the new Su-30. As it is a rank 7 premium, and because I all know you're desperate for that thrust vectoring plane, this plane can be used to grind up the whole tech tree, so for the worth I'll give it a 9 out of 10. This brings the total rating for the MiG-23 to be a total of 69 out of 100. My opinion, I think it's completely worth it, and it was one of the best premiums in the game at the moment.